would like to welcome everyone to the Super Asian American panel at San Diego Comic-Con 2020. This is a unique situation, San Diego Comic-Con at home, and so we hope to bring this panel to you, the viewers at home, bring some semblance of fandom and geekdom for the Super Asian American community. So if our panelists can introduce themselves, go right ahead. We'll start with Peter.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Peter Shinkoda here. You may know me as an actor from some projects, the higher profile ones, Daredevil, Marvel's Daredevil on Netflix, and you might know me from Spielberg's Falling Skies on TNT from almost a decade ago, and some other things here and there.
All right, Deric.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Deric Hughes here, writer, producer, such shows as Warehouse 13.
Love that show.
Arrow, and most recently Legacies for the CW.
Awesome. Joy.
Hi, I'm Joy, writer, actor. I was on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and I played the Filipino cousin who said, "Yeah, bitch." And I also, what else? Oh yeah, I have a YouTube sketch that went viral called White Fetish. And then last year I wrote on this show called, it's on Netflix, The Healing Powers of Dude, and I'm currently writing on a show for DreamWorks Netflix that is top secret, but you probably all know it, so I'm excited for when it comes out and I can not be secret about it.
Awesome.
Is that a cartoon or live action?
Oh, it's an animated show, yeah, cartoon.
Awesome. And last but not least, Bao.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bao Phi. I've been a spoken word poet for over 20 years. I'm a published poet and also a children's book author.
Welcome, everyone, to Super Asian America. I'd like to start off by asking, what about Asian America is super to you?
Who's gonna answer that one?
Well,
everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything. The food, the culture. I mean, it's just, the people is like, it's just, it's like, it's such a giant tapestry of such different things to experience and enjoy and try to emulate, and that have contributed so much to society. I think that's the broader sort of thing. I mean, look at my wallpaper, right? Anime. I mean, anime has been such a big influence on American pop culture, especially like the younger generation. I can't tell you how many. It's so surprising because I grew up on anime and drawing anime. I'm a lot older than I look, and it's like, but and so there was only a few of us around, as far as like people that really, you found that you ran into one another and you're like, oh, you dig Dragon Ball, you dig this, you do this, and all this stuff. But then, it was like, then more anime continued to be introduced in American, in sort of into the American mainstream. Now, I mean, there's like, there's an entire generation that has just feeds off of it. And it's like, and there's no color barriers. It's like, I like white people, black people, Latinx people. It's like across the spectrum of people that have really sort of embraced and fallen in love with anime. So,
I agree. I think in every way, from every corner from Asian culture, is extrapolated things that people selectively love. They embrace it. They appropriate it. They love it. I don't mind that. The biggest problem is it's a common response to this. People that defend their racism. Unless they think, you calling me racist? I just had Chinese food 2 hours ago. Don't call me racist. Like what that Amram, she wrote that on her Twitter. Like the producer of that show that just got lit up. She wrote that like 8 years ago, right? She goes, don't you call me, And then she said that the retard statement about Asian. That's the problem. You can eat our food. You can do Kung Fu all day. You can do your white savior movie. You can make American Ninja 8 with a white guy or change it to a black guy. I don't care. You can appropriate. Treat the people well first. You can have you have a carte blanche. You have the white card to do anything you want with our stuff. Treat the people first. Then you can do anything. I don't care. You know, wear the kimonos all day. You can even, you know, dress in kabuki, yellow, with a yellow face all day. Just treat the people well, for not the other way around. It's clear to me that everybody's in denial. They love Asian culture. I don't care. They can call sushi bait in 1982. They can laugh at our masks for 20 years. They can say our Far East religion and faiths are stupid. They all embracing it now. We've been ahead for a long time. And they've loved it. They're learning to love it. And to be privileged here is to get to eat privileged, you know, ethnic food and all that stuff. And in some ways, those are the you know, the liberal hypocrites that they're treating us badly. It's very strange. All you gotta do is appreciate and dignify the people. Do anything you want with our culture. I know you love it. That's my 2 cents.
I think Asian America is super, partly because of how like resilient and strong we are. Like, you know, we have come through all kinds of oppression and, you know, all kinds of crazy government stuff from our home countries, and our parents or grandparents or whoever in your bloodline came over here to a country where they didn't know anybody or hardly anybody. And then they like, you know, made a life here and had some version of their dream come true. And then they had us, and we're strong in our own ways. Like we get to fight our own fight and kind of like say, yes, we do belong here. Yeah.
I like you, Joy. That's a good answer. It's true.
I think my answer, I'd like to think about how there are ways in which we're disempowered and to turn that into a power. So I think one of the ways in which we're disempowered is that Asian American people have almost no say or control how we're seen or understood in this culture. In the court of public opinion, we have very little influence. And oftentimes, I think people try to fix Asian American people into pre-existing boxes, usually dichotomous and binary, that we actually don't fit into. We actually complicate all of those discussions. For example, are we people of color, or are we white? Are we men of color? Are we women of color? Are we rich or poor? Are we American or foreign? I think that our presence complicates all of those questions. And people will have an opinion one way or another where they want to put us depending on so many different factors. And I think what we have in common is that we actually usually don't have a say. But I think that that's actually a power. I think that if we can turn that into a power where we say, no one can define us, we don't fit into these definitions, I think our power then lies in we get to define ourselves. And we can define ourselves outside of these boundaries of man, women, race, etc. And this is not to say that like to erase race. That's far from what I'm saying. That, you know, like I absolutely am against this whole colorblind notion and erasure. I actually think pushing back against the erasure in a way that says, hey, like we're actually our own people.
Exactly.
Like the way Black people are their own people, the way American Indian people are their own people, the way Latinx and Arab people are their own people, even white people are their own people, you know? Like I think that can be what's powerful and beautiful about us, is if we as a people can define it outside of all of these pre-existing notions that don't work for us.
Right.
Well, that's the problem.
It's important to understand that, you know, that Asian Americans are not a monolith. You know, I think a lot of people have ideas about what being an Asian American is, you know, being good at math and all of those other stereotypes, right? But I have to agree with you in that, yeah, we're not a monolith, and, you know, we need to empower each other to be able to tell our own stories. So Racebending, the group that has put this panel on at San Diego Comic-Con since 2010. We got started by organizing a campaign in protest of the casting of The Last Airbender. At the time, it was, you know, a lot of us know now we're watching Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix.
I just finished again. It was like, it's so good. That movie is abomination.
It's terrible.
I heard they greenlit a sequel.
But aside from all of that, you know, at the time, you know, they specifically called for Caucasian actors to portray these roles that are so clearly, you know, influenced by Asian culture. And at the time, you know, we just wanted to see our faces on screen. And it's been 10 years and a lot has changed in that time, as I'm sure you know. So I'm curious from your perspective as an Asian American, both in how you are perceived as being an Asian American and as you present yourself as an Asian American. What challenges have you seen? Like, what progress have you seen in your respective industries and in your respective careers?
I'll take a stab at this one. In the last 10 years, after being a lead on on a major show, a cable show, I've seen a lot of things change, especially in the last 2 years. A lot of the Crazy Rich Asians made a big splash and made distinctive changes. Things are happening, especially the last 2 years. I'm seeing a lot of Asian, a little more diversity, but I see it clearly to me, maybe wrong, I see it happening more for women, especially Asian women. I've seen a lot of headlined shows with Asian women, but ladies first. And also the guard keepers, they have a commodity, they have a currency that Asian guys don't have. There's zero interest. There's no currency in Asian guys, but at least there's an affinity for Asian women or women of color that are attracted by the decision makers. It's amazing because ladies first. I love seeing it. And of course, that means we're going to come next. There is a line, there's a hierarchy.
Yeah, I mean, like you have like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend that had, Filipino, you had The Good Place also had, a Filipino, actor in one of the main roles. Yeah, so I think there are some instances of Asian men getting these bigger roles.
Well, this is the thing. Daniel Wu go do 3 years of ended up, into Bama. That's another martial arts vehicle gets canceled. He went back to Asia. There's a lot of these guys going back to Asia. Look at Daniel Day Kim. Look at Brian T. Look at William Lee. These guys are all my contemporaries. I went to acting school in the 90s. All of them. To go to the next level, Daniel Day Kim gave up his, biceps and a gun and his hula shirt. Now he's in a smock on his own show. I guess that didn't work out. Oh, wait. Now he's in a smock, Dr. Smock on 2 shows. He's an alpha male. He's our biggest chance in America. Wait, DK, Drift King, the tough guy from Tokyo Drift. Oh, he's in a smock. Cast number 8 on Chicago Med. Then there's William Lee, who played Kirigi, Elektra and Daredevil's enemy 11 years ago. He's in a smock on The Good Doctor. Wait a second. I played the bad guy fighting Elektra and Daredevil, and I'm not employed. But there's some things that are looking at me to be in a smock. Mm. So all the alpha male guys that were at one point really the physically capable guys are now in that typical stereotypical role that we've always complained about. We're always doctors, engineers, tech people, and they're all number. Daniel Day Kim's a doctor on 2 shows, both coasts, Vancouver. He's literally doing.
He's also a producer though of that show.
Yeah,
like that. So he stepped behind the scenes so that he can have more control and more say. And definitely he has an influence on like who could get cast, and therefore open more opportunities, for more inclusivity, which is also, I think, is like looking at the sort of like the 3-dimensional chess of it. It's not like, okay, well, can I get
it's a slow play. I see what he's doing, but it's unfortunate that he went from that to that. I know he took a pay cut. He's getting the money from the producing. He's got about 3 more projects. He got 2 production deals. So they're going to come and happen. But it's a slow play because he went and he's cast. The majority of his cast is ethnic on Good Doctor, which is amazing. I love it. And William Lee, he squeezed in there too because they're friends. But it's hard because he's got to answer. I don't know if he's a showrunner or not. I have a friend of a showrunner. I have a friend who's one of the 3 Asian male showrunners. I won't tell you what massive, like, number 3 watch show in the world. I talk to him every few days. I'm trying to get one of my few shows. He's like, dude, 20 years away. Wow. I greenlit 3 shows with Asian male leads. They've all been half Asian male leads. We shot 2 of them. They didn't go further than that. 20 years. I'm developing 15-year-old boys now for 20 years when this is going to happen, because I'm not going to happen.
Can you talk about your experience as an actor as well?
Yeah. When I first started, like you said, it's a lot different. And I mean, even my first like little tiny co-star role on 90210, like I sold Adderall, so it's like kind of funny that it's like it said all ethnicities, but of course an Asian selling Adderall, right? but I mean, yeah, now, you know, with Crazy Rich Asians, of course, and To All the Boys, like it feels like a little bit like now I was able to get reps because like now the Asian American experience is like, oh, like we want another Crazy Rich Asians, we want another box office hit, like, oh, Asian American coming of age stories, like those are hot right now. Whereas when I started out, like I had writing teachers who would be like, is there a reason your protagonist is Filipino? It was like such a weird question. It's like, did I choose to be born in this skin? Like, no. But now I think people can recognize like, oh, there's cachet, and it kind of sucks that we had to like have a box office hit to prove that we are worth like seeing. But you know, for better or worse, like it does feel like there's more, like, you know, John Cho's what was that, Searching? Was that what it was called?
So good.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, the fact that he got to be a lead and that was about his Asian American family, like super cool. So I do think there's like some modicum of hope, and doors are breaking down and stuff.
I just saw this movie that was on Netflix. It just came out with Leah Lewis from Nancy Drew. She was the lead, and I forget the name of it. So good.
Is it the Korean movie, The Witch?
No, it's an American.
I was just watching that before this. It's like, that's a crazy movie.
There's a lot of good movies coming out, even especially from Asia, you know.
Parasite, of course. It won
Oh God!
I mean, what a huge thing.
That was like the best thing that happened in 2020. It's like that was the peak, and then everything just went downhill.
Well, it was Crazy Rich Asians and Parasite, because it showed like the broad spectrum of what you can do, right?
I mean, did it surprised you guys? I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was just completely genius when I watched it. Not expecting it. Didn't look at the reviews before and spoilers. Watch it. This guy knew how to weave it's just such a fine movie. I couldn't believe it. Undermined my own.
So it was just an amazing sort of character-driven movie that, again, that wasn't, you know, I mean, it was dependent upon the culture because it was there in South Korea, and it was talking about classism and, you know, in that way. But at the same time, it was about interesting characters and not so much about interesting ethnicity, right? It was like,
absolutely.
He was like, you can take that. I was, you know, using you as an example because you were in The Predator, right? You were in the last movie with Sterling K. Brown and
yeah. And didn't get to meet him because I love him. I love his work. Right,
and generic white dude, right? It was like I can't. It was like generic white dude, the one that basically it's like I can't tell if that's like Scott Eastwood or that other guy from Suicide Squad or that other dude. It's like they seem interchangeable, right? And my argument was always like, there were far more interesting actors. The guy was Trevante, who played as part of this, you know, special forces. It's like he could have been the lead in that movie because he could have stepped right into that role because it wasn't dependent upon the ethnic background on this character. You could have been the lead on that movie because, again, that movie was not sold on generic white dude. That wasn't putting people in seats. It was Shane Black directing it. And the Predator. I mean, that was it. Like, you're there to see the alien. So it's like you could have been the lead in that movie playing against Sterling K. Brown and with what's her name? Olivia Munn. You know, it would have been the same type of movie. You would have brought a different flavor to it, absolutely, because of your style, your background, all that stuff. But it would have still the same movie, the same objective.
I was a doctor in a smock.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Can I try to answer the question? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Are you all done, or I can wait?
No.
Okay. So just really quickly, I was born in Vietnam, and I came as a refugee as a baby to South Minneapolis. The neighborhood that I grew up in is Minneapolis' largest, poorest, and most racially diverse. My parents lived 2 blocks away from the Little Earth housing projects, which was a primarily American Indian housing project, urban housing project with American Indian people. My parents still lived there. I grew up there, you know. So the picture I'm trying to paint for you is I was this refugee, the youngest. Vietnamese and other Southeast Asians from the war were the first big visible Asian populations to come to the Midwest en masse. And so we were seen by everyone as the enemy, okay? And on top of that, I was raised in what some people would call a tough neighborhood. Like, I hate using that term, but shorthand, so you know what I'm talking about. And in a culture where men, especially non-white men and poor non-white men, are expected to be tough, I was not tough. I was bookish. Comic books, Dungeons and Dragons, books, libraries, they were my salvation. That's who I am today. Star Wars, all of that stuff.
You look pretty intimidating, though, I have to say. To me, you look like a strong guy.
You look like a tough poet, man.
Well, thank you. But so, and even in growing up in that cauldron of race and gender and all of these things in my face, all of those things that I consumed were very white still, right? Even if they were like X-Men, there was Nightcrawler who was the demon, but like even all the people who like experienced discrimination were like white, right? And that had an effect on me. And now to answer the question whether or not there's been progress, I always want to say that, maybe like yes and no, progress is not linear. So one thing that I think about, for instance, in books, right, is that sometimes people look at statistics and for instance, look at children's books and say, oh, there's actually an overrepresentation of Asian children's book authors relative to our population. But if you dig deeper, a lot of times those statistics actually include Asian foreign writers and artists, right? And that's fine, but that's not necessarily the same as us. Like, and if you look at those books, they'll be about like animals and folklore and stuff like that. Very little will they actually have to do with an Asian American experience here. And that's not to say that everything we do has to have that experience. I'm saying that if you look at the numbers, you might not be able to parse where we still need to make a lot of progress. Does that make sense? And the last thing I'll say too is that one thing that I keep thinking about is like, if you look at any video game, if you look at any Marvel movie, and you look at the tech people, right? Those names are like Vietnamese, Korean, Chinese. They're the ones like with the nerd sweat pouring all of this stuff, right? But still, even though we're overrepresented in the tech side of those entertainments, we're still underrepresented in terms of like whose faces you actually see, right?
Absolutely.
That's why we need these joys behind the camera. I love that they're staffing up behind there because that's going to make all the difference in the world, really. I feel it starts with the material, and then they get some kind of authority on who gets the role. So I love that Joy's doing this. Just like
Right.
Oh, thanks. And yeah, that's a really good point about like Asians from Asia versus Asian Americans getting roles. Like, Mulan, casting of Mulan, there's been a lot written about that. And then, but I do, one more thing. I love the idea of like, there is like 2 steps forward, 1 step back and kind of parsing out what is progress. But the amount of series regulars I go out for that are like, when I first started, always best friends, always quirky best friends. Now, like I got like maybe 2 pilots this year that were for the lead. And I was like, is this right? Like it was my inner Asian was like, I don't think that you wrote this right, or like it was like this weird thing of like, are you sure? Like, will this sell? And it was like the internalized white supremacy, or internalized like we can't sell or we can't lead or whatever, which is like something I need to work on in myself, and maybe a lot of Asian Americans do. But the fact that I read for leads now, like that is shocking. I'm like, oh, it's so cool.
Well, it goes back to that whole thing again. It's like we had to grow up in white spaces. So, it's like, again, like you were saying, it's like playing D&D as a kid. There weren't really any Asian characters. Maybe that one Asian character, right? That one sort of like Bruce Lee looking character that you get to choose and make your character around and stuff like that. But, in all the movies, all the shows, right? I grew up on Star Wars. I grew up on Star Trek. I grew up on, reading Marvel comics, and then it was like Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu was like about it, right?
You had the same childhood as me. Exactly. That's it. That's it.
It was, which was fine on one hand, but then it was, again, it's like where is this like the influences that I had to sort of like seek out. Fortunately, being half Black, half Japanese, I was like, my mother being Japanese, I was able to grow up on manga and anime as well. So I was able to see that there and live in those worlds. But as far as like in the entertainment industry, like you said, it's always about the Asian actor, either as the one with the smock or as the best friend, right? Best friend that services the white character.
Or
right?
the evil bad guy.
Yeah, or the evil bad guy. Lots
to be defeated by the savior.
Yeah, that having around, because as much as, you know, being a Black man and identifying that way, but also not ignoring my Asian heritage, it's like, definitely when it comes to, and again, not as a monolith, but Asian representation in television is so minuscule in comparison. You know, it's like it is like almost invisible majority in this weird way, right? And so the, you know, the continuous push there, like you're saying, is like the changes that are happening now are promising, but we've still got a long ways to go. And it's like, but it's going to take people like us that are in these sort of like stepping into these more into the, you know, leadership roles of being the writers and the creators, and, you know, and not just being in front of the camera, be behind the camera, and you know, and having continue to have those networks and those connections, that we can begin to, you know, just continue to make these changes, right? Because like with Marvel is like they're doing, you know, Shang-Chi, right? But you know, the director is Asian American. What's his name? Daniel Destin.
Yeah,
Preston.
Yeah.
Is he not Australian? He's American.
I thought it was American. No, they're shooting in Australia.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But it's like, so, you know, so you know, you haven't, but it's going to be a, you know, a huge influence. Randall Park is Jimmy Woo. You know, it's like that was a huge sort of thing. Again, it's like seeing characters in different ways that we don't normally get to see, and that,
I love him.
You know,
I love the parts he's getting.
Right, and you know, and continue to be that way. You getting, you know, lead roles offers, that's an indication that there's an awareness and there's a shift, but it, like a rubber band, it can't snap back. We just have to you got to keep stretching it until it breaks, until that we're not having these type of conversations anymore about like, oh, you know, can we just get that one more spot in? Can we get just that one more story in and stuff like that, you know?
It's tough, right? It's tough though. I know all you guys have invested years into this, and it's like, wow, it's tiresome.
Yeah,
it's really tiresome.
I'm curious to hear what you all think of what those next steps should look like. I mean, a lot of us are all, you know, at home, plenty of time to watch stuff. And you know, a lot of time to work on creative projects and all of that. So this is kind of a two-part question. One, what is your creative process like right now in this situation? And yeah, aside from, you know, crying and into a ball every night, you know. So aside from that, what's your
crying into a ball? Like you get a ball and you cry into a ball.
Right, there you go. So that, your creative process, and also, you know, in terms of progress, what does that look like to you? Like, what do you think is needed and necessary to get to be the future that you want to design, right? This is kind of like a reset, it feels like, with the pandemic and, you know, everything that's going on. So what do you envision for Super Asian America?
I'm getting old, and it hurts to do my roles that they put me in physically. I literally have to fight all the time and learn medieval Japanese. So it really hurts. And in my mid-40s, it hurts. So I'm trying to do exactly what you guys are doing, create the content. It all starts there, and then you convince people that it could fly. So I'm looking at these guys, like, you know, all you guys that are creating behind the scenes, because in the front of it, I'm powerless as an actor, begging for roles, but what can I do more? And I know there's always more to do, and you guys are doing it. That's
what kind of, Deric, what kind of role do you want to be given the chance to play?
Me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, the regular guy, even like any of these, you know, roles that these American white guys get, just to be portrayed as an American, speak English, nothing attaches, nothing that references my Asianness. You know, just be one of the guys. That would be it. You know, being a Good Will Hunting, and you're just kind of a prick on the side, even that. But it's hard because I know I'm always playing something.
How do you like them rice balls? But they like that.
Exactly.
Still gotta have that Asian flavor to it, though. It's like,
right. That's all. You know, just it's not even a big ask. I just want to be normal. But like I said, there's so much more I can do. And in my narcissistic acting selfishness, I'm always thinking from that angle. But I see what you guys are doing. It starts with the content, getting behind the scenes, and you know, and planting the seeds there. Not going, can I be a star? Can I be this glorious guy on screen? It can't be that guy. I never wanted to be. So I'm producing. I have a production company. I'm on partnership with Reginald Hudlin right now. We're pushing, you know, a samurai series for the last year and a half, and a couple other shows. So I really want to do my
Yasuke?
I'm sorry?
Based on Yasuke?
No, that one. Isn't that one the RZA one, the Black Samurai, and then
No, I actually worked on that one, Black Samurai. That was
did it fall through? Because I heard
was that, it was Stars. We were working on it over the Stars. Bruckheimer was producing it, and we were like 30 weeks in, and Common was the star in it.
Yeah, and then
it all fell apart. I know that they're trying to do it again now, but that was
I think they got Chadwick in, right?
Yeah.
For the movie version, because there was a couple versions that they were developing over there.
Yep. Yeah.
So I don't know. Now get back on it.
No, actually, I'm doing another project right now that is Asian as F right now.
Yes.
And but it's gonna be it's a pretty big one, and it's gonna be fun. And you know, that's the thing. Like my writing partner and I, because we're now in the place of like running our on the cusp of running our own shows, and because of that, I do have much more say about who I want in front of the camera, behind the camera, in the room. And it's like that in representation for us is like, the inclusivity is very, very important, because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. And also, I'm also a member of the board of directors for the Writers Guild. So that in itself also is another place that I'm able to have a voice and, to try to help, and again, to affect change in ways that I wasn't able to before, and that's something that will be always a part of me that I'm always trying to do. And so, but yeah, that's, having that sort of like, that was always the goal. It's like, get to a place where you're able to call the shots, right?
Exactly.
A place that you're able to make the changes, because it's like, you got to learn the rules of the game, get into the game, and then change the game. And that's what I think that, it's like, then you teach the next ones.
Exactly. You got to pay your dues and sell out a bit at the beginning. You got to, tough. You got to bite the bullet and do it. But that's the only way.
I guess my answer would be like, it'll sound like super expansive, but like, I think, so you need like people on all sides of the equation, and also like just people out there like doing what they like, whatever you're passionate about. Like Marie Kondo, this is my favorite thing I love talking about. She's passionate about cleaning. Who would have thought that like now she's like however much multi-millionaire, whatever, has her own show, opens up a whole like opportunity for an Asian American SNL performer to go do a Marie Kondo impression, just because Marie Kondo was herself doing what she loved, So I think it takes like people going out to see movies and like we get their dollars, people going out and making names. Like, there should be like an Asian American like movie about like Asian American like Olympians, like, because they create stories for us to write about as well. Mm-hmm. So people out in the world doing their things, and then also us on the other side, I get to write about it. And then people like people who are allies who aren't Asian American, like just opening their minds and being like, oh, like they're human. Like I can see myself in their story and their shoes. Like just because it's like not my personal experience growing up wherever they did with that demographic. Like I will buy a ticket and I will watch this and I don't know. Yeah.
You're so right, Joy. You're right. Don't even think about that. We're always asking other people to diversify for us. Why don't we just go out, do anything and diversify ourselves, and then people embrace it? I think that's a great approach.
Now's the time. I mean, again, it's like we're in the great equalizer right now.
And that's what I call it. This is the great equalizer. This is the common denominator.
As
far as do, what you can create, what you can publish, what you can get out there, it's like this, now is the time. And also this is the time that people's ears are perked up and they're wanting to say, like, they want to make those changes, they don't know how to make those changes, and so you have to take the initiative to say, like, this is how you're going to make these changes. Mm-hmm. Listen to us, we're here. So going back to you saying, like, okay, I don't want to be the guy in the smock. Go back to your reps this week and say, like, yo, put me up for the garbage man role. Put me up, put me up for the male version of the Marie Kondo role.
Exactly. I said I'll play anything. I'll play
Mario
anything.
Kondo.
Exactly. It's like, Mario Kondo. Boom. Joy hit it on the head. By the way, Joy, I'm gonna be the anti Marie Kondo. It's gonna be called Pigsty, because I'm like dirty up in the middle of a quarantine. If I took this wallpaper off, you'd be like, yo, Deric, place.
I gotta go write the superhero movie, like Marie Kondo is a superhero, and like, oh, okay, I'm pumped. And that's my homework. Like, I gotta write more, and I gotta,
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of ideas here.
Bao, what are your thoughts, Bao? We haven't heard from you.
So I've been a writer, again, for over 25 years, and I've always envisioned first an Asian American audience in my heart when I create. And that's not to say that other people can't appreciate it. Like, I hope other people actually appreciate it. Anyone with an open mind, I hope, would appreciate it. But that's always been my focus for the past 25 years. I've been writing what they call spoken word now since I was 16. So that's like the early 90s. And you have, just to give you a little background, that means I went to college in 93, and as an adult, I tried to do this poetry thing from the late 90s and the early aughts, right? So this is before YouTube. This is before social media, so we didn't have the like instant access to connection that we do now. So back then it was all hustle. And, like for those of us who are not white, I mean, for Asian men specifically, going back a little bit to what you said, Peter, I was told in the late 90s that the majority of people who buy books in America are white women. And there's just no interest in the ethos or experience of Asian men, particularly straight Asian men, particularly in that demographic. And I'm not saying that we're more oppressed. I'm saying in terms of the market, the specific genre I was working in, that's what I was told, right? And so, and I'm not like gonna sit here and whine. What I'm saying is that was actually a pivotal time, because that meant those of us who never felt that we would be embraced by the mainstream or accepted by the gatekeepers, we had to create success our own way, outside of their system, outside of their approval, outside of their rubrics, right? And so I didn't get a book published until I was 35, and by then I had been doing it for over 15 years, right? But I had found success through spoken word and slam. And again, that community was largely women, it was largely queer, it was Black, Asian, working class, Latino, Native American, like we created that movement ourselves because we didn't think anyone else would accept us. You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that, but that being said, I think that all approaches are necessary, especially now. Like,
just
I think
what Joy said. Just do everything else to expose yourself. Just like people exposed on YouTube.
So exactly. So I'll go and watch crazy as a consumer. So there's the creative process where I write and I produce my work. And then as a consumer, I'll go watch Crazy Rich Asians, sure. But I'll also watch local Asian American theater. I'll go and buy, I'll buy a book by an Asian American that everyone's heard of, and a book by an Asian American that no one's heard of. It's like being a part of the ecosystem. Like, unfortunately, we live in a capitalist country, and money talks. And I don't think it should be that way. But, like, I'm just like looking pragmatically, like how, not just as a creator, but a consumer, how I can kind of be a part of the ecosystem until it.
Sure. Yeah, I will never bootleg an Asian American film or an Asian film. I'll always go to the theater and pay,
But not Asian American stuff.
You just got to support, the product that's coming out from these guys, or it won't fly.
Well,
sorry, can I just add one more thing? I'm sorry.
Totally, go for it.
Just really quickly, one thing that I continually also ask about progress as a creator is, of course, the Asian American centrism is important just because it doesn't exist right now, but also can we do that in a way that doesn't harm other people, right? So like, I'm not interested in, harming Black people.
No, man, I hate stepping on people to go up.
Like Latinx people, Arab people, none of that, so how, like, or women or queer people or any of that, or other Asians for that matter. And so part of the question for me, like progress, is like, can we do it in a way that is not like the typical, like we have to step on somebody else or like make someone else feel bad in order to be successful? So I'm sorry, that's all.
Oh no, that you don't have to apologize. I 100% agree, especially given the time right now, when the pandemic first hit, there was a lot of anti-Asian discrimination. And now we're seeing, the protests and the movement for Black lives. So you're absolutely right. We need to, we need to be able to bring everyone up, right, and not step on other people.
Exactly.
And because again, Asian Americans are not a monolith. We have those people in our communities. We have Latino Asians. We have queer Asians. We have trans Asians. We have we have Black Asians. So
a lot of intersectionality.
Yeah, right. So that is part of our community, right? So I absolutely agree. If we were able to move forward, and going back to the being a consumer, when we first started out, that was part of our campaign was to encourage people to boycott the movie, right? So we're functioning in this capitalist system. You go to Comic-Con, you wait in line to like buy this coveted exclusive toy, right? Like that's part of geekdom and fandom. But at the same time, there's a level of authorship, and you're right, it's part of being the ecosystem wherever you fit in that, whether you're a consumer, whether you're an artist, whether you're whatever. So yeah, absolutely agree. Okay, so talking about the pandemic, what are you watching right now? Like, what are the stuff that you are consuming? What is like, especially Asian American content are you loving right now that you want to share or recommend?
I'm actually rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender since it's up on Netflix.
I just finished book 3, and now I'm doing Korra because it's on CBS All Access. I was like, cool, I've already got that, so I just started watching Korra again. And it's so great. I mean, it's wonderful and just a lot of fun. And I was like, oh yeah, this was a really good show. It's like
yeah.
And then, like I was saying before we started recording, I'm watching this Korean movie. I don't know if it's a Korean movie because it said part 1, but it's called The Witch Subversive. And
I'm gonna check that out.
It's crazy. It's like Akira meets Push meets Carrie meets The Villainous. I guess would be the way it is. I don't know. It's just, yeah.
Where can we watch it? Where can we watch The Witch? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I'm all over that. Next.
Yeah, and I think it's some of the Korean actors that are from like Train to Busan and maybe I want to say Parasite, like the one sister. I think she. So yeah, check it out. It's pretty wild. Like I was almost late for this panel because I was watching it and I was like, oh, what time is it? Oh, I need to stop and jump onto this.
There's so much out there. There's so much content, for everybody out there. I'm watching like Ozark, and I got to catch up. I got to see this Bruce Lee doc, which I'm late on. I just watched The Five Bloods a couple nights ago, which was awesome. So original. Never seen an approach like that. Just staying on top of the relevant stuff. There's just so much. It's hard. It's just hard to keep up. It's real hard to keep up.
But at the same time, you got nothing but time.
Exactly. But I'm trying to do what you guys are doing. Like I said, projects, I'm writing, tweaking, so networking behind the scenes, prepping to be ready for when everything, goes again. And like I said, I'm trying to put the acting more on the back burner and be a content creator as opposed to whining, saying, somebody give me something. So I want to be more like you guys because there's so much more to do. There's just so much more to do. And confused at which way to go, but I think it's what you guys are doing. I'm taking your lead. Really.
I would love to see a movie about what it's like to have gone to school alongside Daniel Day Kim and your whole career. I think that would be really cool to watch.
I know, it'd be weird because I was in acting class, me, William Lee, and Jason Scott Lee's my best friend, and these guys that came up in the 90s, they all retired because of racism. Garrett Wong, Ensign Harry Kim of Voyager. He quit. He already left before the
Garrett just
was over.
He does this convention.
He's done. I'm moving to Vegas. I'm over. I'm quit Hollywood. Jason Scott Lee, 99. Moving back to Hawaii, Pete. I'm building a house. Come help me build it. I'm quit. There's too much racism in Hollywood. Yuji Okamoto, Chosen from Karate Kid 2. I give up. It's done. Even as an Asian, especially as a Japanese American, there's no work. I'm done. I'm moving to Seattle. Open up a Hawaiian restaurant. all these guys are my mentors. I said, I'm just gonna stick this out, and I kept in it, you know. But it's tough. It's tough, you know. I don't know what I'm ranting about now.
You're ranting about something that shouldn't have to be ranted about, but but we continue to have that sort of circular sort of rant.
Yeah.
And something has to change, something has to break. And I think that we are now at that point where the breakage is starting to happen. And it's just, again, though, you have to continue to apply pressure, you know, and that's
I'm positive because I love seeing you guys. I'm like, oh man, I came to Hollywood going to people that think like me, and to see you guys that are out there, my contemporaries that are supportive. It's just
right.
I'm sad, but at the same time, I'm so overwhelmed with confidence because you guys are out there too. You know, we have a chance.
Well,
so,
I'm guessing, Bao, that like in the publishing world, it's probably even worse, right? I mean, because there was that sort of insistent stereotype of and sort of the old argument of like, well, you know, Asian writers don't have an audience beyond Asian, you know, Asian people. Asian American people are they're going to read your stuff, which is absolute bullshit. But I'm sorry, yeah, I forgot.
You know what's funny?
The Comic-Con.
You gotta have the little thing that says,
yeah, I'm gonna use my good place, curse word. Bullshit.
You know, you just said Asian writer. My show that I was just working on it got canceled in the middle. I played the Asian Stephen King. I'm the best-selling American horror writer, and you know, the whole world knows me. That's all I can say about the character. Let's see if we continue that. I don't know, but it was so cool. I was like, what? I'm playing Stephen King, and they built all these props with books, my names, the cover, the insect picture.
Well,
I was like, wow.
I hope your name was Stephen. I hope your name was Stephen Kang.
That's such a missed opportunity.
I have a Japanese name, but I had a.
That was always my joke. Was like, you know, the bootleg Stephen King should be Stephen Kang.
There's another movie right there. You guys are
Stephen Wing.
we're just feeding all of these ideas to the aspiring writers out there.
It's
right
so
about this.
This is good stuff.
Deric and Joy, did you answer the question? Do you want to go first? About what, like?
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we already did. All right.
Oh.
Yeah. What are you guys watching?
Yeah.
Well, so I gotta say that I had been working on a Vietnamese zombie apocalypse novel for 10 years, and where basically it was a vision of there's a zombie pandemic, and basically the U.S. government blames Asian people, and they put them into these internment camps to draw zombies away from everybody else towards these internment camps, and they also have free labor of these Asian people that they've imprisoned.
I love it already. I've watched the hell out of it.
So I've been working on it for 10 years. I finished it about 5 months before COVID. But kind of going back to your point, Deric, is that even as timely as it is, there's always, as a non-white person, you know how it is, like you're at the mercy of these gatekeepers who may or may not decide that you're going to sell 30,000 copies of this thing, right? And so, but you know, like, not to say that I'm without agency, you know, like I finished it, and at this point I'm shopping it around. So in terms of like COVID, that's been my main. I also have another children's book. I'm writing a book of essays on race and all of this other stuff. So that's kind of like what I'm creating as a creator. In terms of what I'm consuming, I play a lot of video games because I find that in video games, they're so realistic now that it's like traveling. And since we're all in shelter in place, you see these beautiful areas that I probably couldn't even go to actually if I was allowed outside. But then there's also in video games, right, the illusion of control, right? Every video game world has a set of rules, and if you follow those rules and you go through the process, generally speaking, you're not denied the little carrot at the end of the stick, right? And I feel like I kind of need that right now when everything is just so out of our control, it feels like. And then the last thing I'll say is I have a 10-year-old daughter, and what we're consuming together, she and I are consuming together, is Adventure Time. So we're going through the whole series together, and it's such an amazingly strange show.
Yeah. Oh, good. So it's so good. And the whole thing about the video games, especially like with the PS5 coming up, the Unreal Engine, there's some games that are just like so breathtaking. You're just like, wait, did they shoot that? Like, is that real? I mean, it's crazy where all this is going. And, dovetailing into that, Peter, have you done any video game work? Have you done any voice acting? Because that's another sort of field that's actually changing. I know, because I just had a conversation with a friend who's a very big voice actor, and the landscape is changing as far as they're looking for BEI POC voices.
Yeah, it's funny because maybe 15, 20 years ago, I did a bunch of voiceovers. I got sick of it because it was paying all right, but it only, like, you had to be an Asian actor to do this English voice with no accent or an accent.
Uh-huh.
I was getting sick of it because I felt like there was no real need for me. There was just a tokenism to it, to the hiring. Got out of it. Dude, the last 3 months, in fact, I got a master producer session with Netflix, a Zoom call on Wednesday to be a voice on a Netflix cartoon, Joy.
Yep.
Helmed by a Chinese American woman, a series rated R. I'm not
rated R.
Rated R. I mean, there's
Netflix is doing a lot of animation right now.
They also have their Japanese samurai docudrama, which is a mini series coming out. They have this thing that's coming out. It's not announced. Don't go looking for it. But I have my Zoom meeting on Wednesday because they need. And the funny thing is, they needed a Japanese guy because the whole cast is Japanese. They said, well, Asian, no accent. I'm like, this is the chance where you can argue. You can have any guy in there. Get Tom Hanks. I don't care. You could, but they actually said we need to have. They're insisting on at least Asian American, even though it's an English accent. That's progress. So I'm happy about that. And there's a couple other projects that call them about voice stuff. So I know that they're trying to do the matchup.
Yeah, they're trying to do the right thing now.
So even if they get it wrong, I appreciate the effort. That's all it is. It's just I know you're trying. Then everything's okay. You can make mistakes.
But not only that, but they're also looking to just like, rather than just not even so much cast an Asian American actor for an Asian character, they're looking to cast Asian American actors for voices for different characters.
Yeah.
So,
I have a couple friends that are of color and are acting white roles now. It was crazy. Like my friend played Reboot in the very hit series Reboot, the cartoon for something like 6-7 years. This guy's, a Sephardic Jewish and Moroccan Jews, my friend. Looks so far from Reboot. Yeah. I went to a convention with him once, and everybody was lined up in shock that this guy was the guy. The kids are like, "You're Reboot," the middle-aged, Middle Eastern guy. But everybody's getting a lot more opportunities now. I'm super appreciative of it, and I'm feeling this last month in the middle of the pandemic because things are ramping up the last 2 weeks. I'm getting calls now from the reps. Things are prepping. No lockdown dates, but I'm feeling a diversified difference. I'm feeling it, and I appreciate it.
I guarantee you, if you started tweeting about your Vietnamese pandemic zombie, people will start to talk about it and will get out there, especially right now because people's antennas are up. And they're really
that's an amazing story.
Receptive and paying attention, and they want to help the change. They want to be a part of that change.
I agree too.
It's like now is not. I've been telling all my friends, like my other friends, like now's not the time to be silent, man. Like get that bag, get that money, get that shmoney. It's like
I think you'd be surprised at how many people are allies. They're out there just waiting for a chance to help. And your story, they're about oh my god,
not even
like
allies. The
World War Z, but better.
Is accomplice.
Accomplice, yes. Accomplice.
It's not enough to be an ally. Ally is from a passive position.
I like that. You're gonna be my accomplice.
Yeah, that's what it is. So, and again, it's like take advantage of it. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. And video games.
Thank you.
I totally agree about the video games, and I'm so looking forward to all of your projects that you all are working on. I can't wait. I'm so excited. So to wrap things up, my question is, what advice do you have for the folks watching at home right now who are, wanting to do what you do, wanting to act, wanting to write? What advice do you have for them, not only to get started, but to persist, to stay in it and keep doing it?
Stick to your convictions, know who you are, Don't take no for an answer. Do what you love. That's what I say.
Discipline.
Even if your parents are against it, it's okay to defy your Asian parents.
Well, what advice do you have for the Asian parents to support their kids?
Listen to your kids. It's a new world. Things change, and the kids have a better understanding of how to negotiate through this world. They're still locked in their own ways, like Asian boomers.
Right. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of for your children, because
exactly. Don't have to shelter them. The kids know a lot, and they can go out and warrior for themselves. You know. Yeah. That's how I feel.
I would say take classes and train. And I know, there's a lot of controversy around the idea that we have to be better than a white person to get a job. But be so good that they can't deny you. Train that hard. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah, I know. If you can connect it to a larger purpose, like if you can connect it to kind of like your ikigai, or like, the idea of like why you were put on this earth, I think that helps you get through the day-to-day rejection. So it's like, I personally hope I was put on this earth to like write my story and represent my community in Asian American. So it kind of helps float you through all the tough parts. If you're like, I'm doing this for a larger purpose, it's not just for me. And then along those lines too, like, I know you said like how to persist, but it's also I want to say there's no shame in quitting or, changing careers or something like that. Like sometimes you decide it's like not your thing. Like maybe you don't want to fight as an actor or writer. Like maybe you want to go make a lot of money doing something else, and that's okay too. And
it's okay.
You're helping the world by buying tickets or like, all the other things we talked about. So there's no such thing as quitting. It's just like changing direction.
Yeah, I agree.
But I would say a caveat to that is, you won't know until you try.
Yeah, at least you got to give it a try. You got to give it a try.
You got to give it a try.
Yeah,
you can't just think about it and talk about it and not do anything about it. It's like,
and I think
do it. And if you fail, if you fall on your face, then you get up. You're like, okay, do I want to continue to keep falling on my face until I'm no longer falling on my face and I'm good at it and this is what I want to do? Or like you said, like, all right, you know what? I gave it my all on that. I'm gonna go do something else. Yeah.
And I think Asian Americans we have to push through our psychology too, of like feeling like we even deserve to be here, that our voices deserve to be heard. So I think if you have that, which I had that complex and I still do, kind of push through that, like you deserve to be here, like you have to tell your story or do your thing, because you're the only person who can like kind of speak to your specific position on this planet.
Yeah.
Al, what are your thoughts?
Has everyone gone?
Pretty
okay.
much.
Okay. Oops, sorry. So I'm going to answer that in two ways. So just to, step in the shoes of my parents. I came from a large, poor refugee family, right? Traumatized by war. So I'm going to answer that in two ways. So just to, step in the shoes of my parents. I came from a large, poor refugee family, right? Traumatized by war. And my parents actually loved art before I did, and more than I did when I was young. And they didn't want me to be an artist, not because they were against art. Like, they loved art. Vietnamese culture prizes art and poetry above so many different things. It was because we were in survival mode. They were scared. They were like, we're already in a new country. We're at the bottom. We're poor. We came from war. You can't be an artist and figure out a way to survive in America. And so I have empathy from my parents. It's not like they're against art. It's like they can see that like survival, like art may not be in their eyes, something that you could take on and survive in this country. So I think that the advice to parents out there to support your kids is like, we might not be all strike it rich and become like big movie or music stars, but we can find a way. We can find a way to make a life out of it. And that leads into the second part. I want to give to aspiring writers and artists, I actually want to pass on something that an elder of mine, the great Japanese-American writer David Mura, told me once. He said, when he and his generation were in their 20s, everyone was an artist. Everyone was a creator. Right? Everyone like danced, or they made films on the side, or they did paintings or sculpture or pottery or writing. Everyone in their 20s was writing. By the time he got to 40, not many people in his generation were writers anymore. And what he said was like, here's the thing. It wasn't those of us who are the most talented that are still around. It was those of us who never quit. And I think that, and I don't want to kind of make it too simplistic, because I think that, you know, not quitting can encompass a lot of different things. Basically what he's saying is you got to figure out a way to keep going. And some of us have disadvantages in that regard, right? Like if you're a non-white person, it's going to be harder for you. If you're a woman or queer, it's going to be harder for you. If you don't come from a wealthy family like mine, like I've had a day job my entire life. I've never been able to just be like, I'm an artist. I get it. It's not like we all start at an equal place. We don't. We all know that. It's more about you have to figure out in your life, to the best of your ability, how to keep going. And that's the best advice that you can give to an artist.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to thank each and every one of you for joining us for this panel today, Super Asian America. I hope we get to come back to San Diego Comic-Con next year, and let's keep the conversations going. Let's be a part of that ecosystem. You know, do what you can where you can, and you know, tell your stories. Like Joy said, you know, we matter, you matter. So don't be afraid. You know, take a chance. If it doesn't work out, move on. And you know, just keep going, keep moving forward. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Really enjoyed this conversation, guys. All right.
Yeah, this is great.